Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Goddess of Victory Nikke video. To be or not to be? That is the question. That pun is way too obvious, but I couldn't think of a better one. Anyway, in this video we'll be taking a look at test results for PvE, PvP, squad compositions, gear, and more for 2B. She's a burst 3 fire type defender with an AR, however something worth noting is that she has a much larger magazine than most ARs, and a very high rate of fire. This makes her functionally similar to a machine gun, but with no spin-up time. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is that her base attack value is relatively low due to being a defender, but everyone has the same modifier when hitting a core. This makes her standard attack strong against enemies that have a core to hit rather than parts, which is another similarity to machine gun users. 2B's skill 1 activates when using a burst skill, and effects change based on the number of uses. The first time, it's a buff to her max HP up to 10%, the second time 20%, and the third it's up to 57%. Since the skill goes hand in hand with her burst, it means she will become more and more effective the longer the battle goes on, and the more time she is able to burst. This will come up later in the video, but for now, know that this makes her strong in long battles like raids where you go to timeout. It also means that cooldown reduction is even more important for 2B than it is for most units. She will also deceptively underperform in shooting range because the time limit is only a minute and a half. Skill 2 activates after firing 300 times. Note that they don't have to actually hit, and it affects all enemies. It can deal up to 167% of final attack as damage, and there's a second part that is basically a completely different third skill. At the start of the battle, she gets a continuous attack buff that is up to 6% of her final max HP. So you can already see a theme here that HP is the most important stat for 2B. It serves both a defensive and offensive purpose. Her burst is a 40-second cooldown and affects all enemies with up to 2,439% of final attack as distributed damage. These are huge numbers, but keep in mind, the more targets on the field, the less it will do to any single enemy. This is the same way Dorothy's burst works. It also deals up to 792% of final max attack as additional damage to the enemy with the highest max attack. This is a very effective skill against both mobs of enemies and bosses. However, since her attack stat is relatively low, the first time she uses it, it won't hit very hard. Remember, her skill 1 gives her burst a big buff that increases after each use. So until that buff gets bigger, it won't be insane damage. She can still clear a lot of adds, but she won't start rivaling the damage of units like Scarlet and Modernia until multiple uses. When equipping her, go for the Bastion Cube. It pairs perfectly with her large magazine. Remember, the bigger the magazine, the less valuable reload speed becomes. For overload effects, I definitely prioritize max ammo. Crit rate and crit damage are also good, and elemental damage is usually good to have in at least 1 or 2 slots. This is a rare case of attack up not actually being the best. Again, this is because her attack stat isn't super high, so the percentage-based increase isn't that great. You can capitalize on crit and elemental damage more. To get maximum value out of 2B, you need some pretty specific squad mates. She can be extremely powerful, but it's not a general use unit you can slap into any situation and dominate like Scarlet or something like that. The most important thing to keep in mind when making a 2B squad is that you want to buff her max HP. This will allow her to start hitting much harder before she gets multiple usage buffs from her skill 1. So, good burst 1 squad mates include Volume, who will increase her critical hits and give the CD reduction that you need. The two most important things for 2B after HP buffs. Summer Mary is also good because you'll have a healer and a decent HP buff. Noise can be used, but her HP buff is relatively small, and you will then need a second burst 1. However, she could be a good option in PvP. Jackal is also a great PvP option. Jackal is already one of the best arena units in the game, but her burst gives a very big damage boost to 2B's burst. Capitalizing on this feels particularly good because this effect is actually kind of rare, and often Jackal is on your squad only for her top tier burst generation or stalling with shared damage. Leader is surprisingly not as good as normal due to her giving an attack percentage based buff, which will serve other squads much better than ones with 2B. If you're enjoying this video, please give me a sub. I'm an official Nikke content creator and it would help me out a lot. Anyway, for Burst 2 squad mates, by far the best unit is Mast. Unfortunately, I do not have her. I wanted to pull for her, but I intentionally skipped because I needed to save resources for 2B and A2, and I don't know how much I'm going to have to dump into that. Eventually I'll get her, but right now I'm really not able to maximize 2B's potential. Mast gives the biggest HP buff in the game and ramps up 2B's damage by a huge margin that can rival some of the highest damage dealers in the game. Biscuit can also be a decent option, but mostly in Arena. And Dola is good if you are using Summer Mary for Burst 1, so you can still have CD reduction. Novel is also great in single target boss battles for the increased damage taken effect. Again, it doesn't depend on 2B's attack stat. My girl Quincy is another solid option for 2B, but if you have all the pieces, she'll be even better on the Summer Anise squad. Blanc and Noir are decent options as well. Bunny girls are good pretty much everywhere. Modernia is great, especially if you are targeting a wind boss. Scarlet works well too, but often she will be on a different team. In fact, the old raid squads would frequently have Scarlet and Modernia on the same team, but with Summer Anise and sometimes Guillotine showing up nowadays, Scarlet is less likely to be teaming up with Modernia or 2B, leaving the two of them to form a potentially devastating third squad together. Guillotine can also be a good option to pair with 2B, especially in a crit-based squad. Remember, you can use Volume for that as well. You could even potentially go for a Volume Masked 2B Guillotine Modernia squad, but this is very much a glass cannon. In Arena, 2B is pretty mid. The fact that she will almost always only get to burst once severely hurts her usability, but with a potentially, with a properly built team, she's probably in the top 5 or 6 burst 3s for Arena. You can also potentially snipe certain units in specific matchups, since her burst will deal huge damage to a single enemy with the highest HP. However, for this purpose, I actually think Power is better because she snipes based on highest attack. That said, a lot of people probably don't even have Power. In any case, I would rank 2B below Scarlet, Privity, Alice, and Summer Anise for sure in Arena. Overall, 2B is a really cool unit and has a very unique and interesting kit. I also like that she can be top tier, but only with the correct build. It's a sign of good game design. She's also creating new opportunities and makes more types of high-level teams for raids. Alternative choices and complexity is where we want to be at, and so far the developers are doing a great job. She's also from one of the coolest IPs in video game history, and she looks absolutely delicious no matter what skin you equip. Okay, so let's end this video by going back to my account and opening a high-quality mold. Nice! Vesti. I think that actually takes mine to Limit Break 2. Alright, subscribe for more Nikke videos. My next one will be about memberships for the channel, so look forward to that. See you in the next stream on YouTube or Twitch.